The deep dive. We're going to try to unpack a pretty fascinating figure in tech today, Sundar Pichai, the CEO of, well, both Alphabet and Google. And we've got a lot on this guy. This is the Wikipedia deep dive. So our mission is to kind of go through his life, his career, and really like try to pull out, the most interesting and I guess significant pieces of his story.
Yeah, we've got his entire life here. It's a lot of stuff, everything from his early life and education in India, all the way to leading, one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and even, some recent events like attending a presidential inauguration and navigating some pretty tricky company policies.
Yeah, and I mean it's a lot to cover, but hopefully we can do it justice. And for anyone out there who's interested in learning about Sundar Pichai and his impact, hopefully this will be a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start with let's start at the beginning. Early life. Born Pichai Sundarajan, June 10th, 1972, in Madurai, Tamil Nadu, India. His mother, Lakshmi, was a stenographer, and his father, Raghunatha Pichai, was an electrical engineer at GEC, a British conglomerate. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about how, those two different professional worlds might have, influenced his early thinking, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can imagine his father being an engineer, might have instilled in him, a very kind of structured way of approaching problems, focus on how things work, and perhaps his mother, being a stenographer, that might have given him a certain precision, attention to detail. Those early environments, I think, really do kind of shape the foundations of how people see the world. Yeah,
for sure. And so he went to Jawahar Vidyalaya Senior Secondary School in Ashoknagar, Chennai, and then class of 12 from Vanavani School at IIT Madras. Got his bachelor's degree in metallurgical engineering from IIT Kharagpur, which is now, he's a distinguished alumnus. Went on to the U.S., got his master's in material science and engineering from Stanford, was a Siebel scholar there, and then finally got his MBA from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, where he was a Farmer scholar. So, I mean, really serious academic background. And just so we get the pronunciation right, is Enfizen Tessisi. Did I get that right?
Perfect. Nailed it. Yeah, that is a serious commitment to education. And it's interesting, right? I mean, you see that combination of deep technical training, with the engineering, and then kind of layering on top of that, the business acumen, first from Stanford, then from Wharton. And even more interesting, you look at something like the Siebel Scholars Program, right? I mean, that's specifically looking at graduate students in business and computer science who have leadership potential, and then similarly, the Palmer Scholar, at Wharton, that means high academic achievement in their MBA program. So these weren't just any degrees, right? I mean, these were degrees that were really starting to signal that this is somebody special.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. And his connection to IIT Kharagpur actually runs even deeper, because that's where he met his wife Anjali Pichai, whose maiden name was Haryani, and she's originally from Kota, India. They now have 2 children. They live in Los Altos Hills, California, and I guess for a little bit of color, he also he enjoys cricket and football. So, a little bit of his life outside of the boardroom.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to have those personal details sometimes too, right? It's easy to think of people, in these massive professional roles, but there's individuals behind those roles, with lives, with passions, with families, and sometimes getting a sense of that can help us kind of see a fuller picture.
No, for sure. So let's look at his early career. Before he joined Google, he worked in engineering and product management at Applied Materials. Anything to say about that role?
Applied Materials, big player in the world of semiconductor manufacturing. I mean, so there he really would have had, his hands in the dirt, so to speak, of bringing the technological products to life, and really understanding the nitty gritty of engineering processes and product life cycles.
Right. And then he did a brief, but potentially very influential stint at McKinsey & Company, right?
Yeah.
Management consulting, which is kind of a shift, I feel like, from the deep engineering world.
Yeah, it was, and that's consulting at a firm like McKinsey, really throws you into wide array of industries, business challenges. It's really about taking that high-level strategic view, problem solving across different sectors, and really understanding how organizations operate as a whole. So, I think that experience would have really broadened his perspective, well beyond just the specifics of engineering.
Yeah. So that brings us to 2004 when he joined Google, a real turning point, I think. And he initially led product management and innovation for some really, really key products. I'm talking about Google Chrome OS. He was largely responsible for Google Drive.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how much we use those every day.
I mean, think about Chrome, right? It's the dominant web browser now. I mean, that's a testament to his early impact. That focus on speed, simplicity, security, it really resonated with users. And think about something like Google Drive, right? I mean, that fundamentally changed the way, a lot of us manage and share our digital lives. These weren't just, small improvements, right? I mean, these were transformative products.
Yeah, absolutely. And his reach extended to, Gmail, Google Maps. I mean, it's almost hard to remember a time before those things, and he was, really involved in their development, their refinement.
Right. And I think it's telling, right, that he was, managing and innovating, across such a diverse, and critical set of applications so early in his Google tenure.
Yeah.
And I think it really speaks to his ability, right, to really understand user needs and then to really guide that large-scale product development effectively. He wasn't just managing, right? He was really shaping, the future of how we interact with the internet.
Yeah, totally. Here's a moment that I think is really interesting, and I'm curious to get your take on it. In 2010, he announced that Google was open sourcing the VP8 video codec. And they introduced the WebM video format. For someone who might not be, super deep in the weeds of video technology, like what's the big deal about that?
So imagine, right? Imagine different companies online speaking different video languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to watch a video created in one language, maybe your device didn't understand it, right? Unless you had, kind of a special translator. And those translators often cost money. And so open sourcing, VP8, it was kind of like creating a free universal language, for video on the internet. So, anyone could use it without paying royalties. And that really helped to spur innovation. It made online video much more accessible to everyone. And WebM was just simply, the standard format that used that open language. So it was a real push, I think, towards a more open, less proprietary web.
Yeah. So lowering the barrier to entry in a sense and kind of democratizing the technology.
Exactly.
Really interesting. And then in 2012 came the Chromebook, right? Which was, kind of a different approach to personal computing at the time.
It was. That was a deliberate departure, I think, from the traditional, operating system model. It was all about, really focusing on cloud-based computing, on simplicity, and it offered an alternative that, proved particularly popular in certain sectors like education.
Mm-hmm.
So, it showed, I think, a willingness to challenge the established norms and really explore new paradigms in how people interact with technology.
Yeah. Okay. So then in March of 2013, his responsibilities, I guess, kind of continued to grow when he took over the Android division from Andy Rubin. And I mean, Android, it powers, a huge percentage of smartphones worldwide. I mean, that's an enormous responsibility.
Yeah. It is. I mean, that was a clear, I think, indication of the trust and confidence that was being placed in his leadership abilities, right? To really manage an operating system with such a massive global footprint, and this complex ecosystem of manufacturers, developers. It's a monumental task.
Yeah.
And it really demonstrated, I think, his capacity to handle incredibly large and intricate operations.
Yeah. Okay. And that trajectory led to an even higher role. He was appointed Chief Product Officer at Google by the CEO at the time, Larry Page. And then on August 10th, 2015, came the announcement that he would be the next CEO of Google with, and the creation of Alphabet Inc. as the new parent company. He officially stepped into the role on October 24th, 2015.
Yeah. And the restructuring, into Alphabet, I think, was a really significant organizational shift. It allowed different parts of Google's business, particularly some of the more experimental, parts to operate with a little bit more autonomy. And I think his appointment, as the CEO of the the core Google business really signaled, his paramount importance to the company's present and future.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in 2017, he joined the Alphabet board of directors. And, it's interesting, too, because, back in 2014, he was reportedly in the running to become the CEO of Microsoft, which ultimately went to Satya Nadella. But, just the fact that he was considered speaks volumes about how highly he was regarded, even back then.
Right. It really shows, I think, the recognition of his leadership talent, his strategic capabilities, throughout the tech world, right? Even at a competitor like Microsoft.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it really does suggest that his reputation for effective leadership, it preceded his ultimate ascent to the CEO role at Google.
Yeah. So of course, no leadership journey of this scale without its challenges, right? In August 2017, he had to, he faced this very public and complex situation when he fired a Google employee who had written this controversial memo criticizing the company's diversity and inclusion policies. And, obviously it was an event that sparked a lot of discussion, both inside and outside Google.
Yeah, and I think that was a really pivotal moment. And, it really highlighted that really difficult, kind of tightrope walk, that leaders in these large organizations have to do, right, when you're trying to balance, these principles of free expression, but also, the need to foster an inclusive and respectful workplace. And I think his decision in that moment really did send a very clear signal about Google's commitment to diversity, even amidst, that internal disagreement.
Yeah. And then in December 2017, he spoke at the World Internet Conference in China, where he emphasized Google's role in helping Chinese companies reach global markets. And, I feel like even, just his appearance there was kind of notable given the complexities of Google's, presence in China.
Right. I mean, his presence at that conference, I think, really underscored, Google's global ambitions and the strategic importance of the Chinese market.
Yeah.
Even despite the well-known regulatory hurdles, right, and the fact that some of Google's core services aren't even readily available there. So it's a delicate balancing act for sure. Balancing that global reach with the local regulations.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in December 2018, he was questioned by the United States House Judiciary Committee on, kind of a range of issues, potential political bias in Google's search results, the potential for a censored search app in China and Google's, privacy practices, really like kind of core issues that I think are still, very much on people's minds.
Right. I mean, that hearing, was a really significant, I think, moment of public accountability for a company like Google with the the influence that it wields, and I think his assurances to the committee about the integrity of search results, about user control over data, about the status of that China search project, these were all attempts, I think, to really address these widespread concerns that people have, both the public and politicians, about the power and the responsibility of these major tech platforms.
Yeah, for sure. So then moving forward to December 2019, another step in the leadership journey, he became the CEO of Alphabet Inc. So, really taking on the top role for that whole, umbrella of companies.
Right. I mean, that elevation to CEO of Alphabet, I think, really marked the consolidation of his leadership across the entire Google ecosystem.
Yeah.
It meant that his vision, his direction would guide not just the core Google services, but also all of those diverse other bets that Alphabet was making, from autonomous vehicles to life sciences.
Yeah. His compensation has also, attracted attention. In 2022, it reportedly topped $200 million. And, that led to some criticism from employees, especially during the 2023 layoffs. It does highlight some pretty stark contrasts, within these large companies, I think.
Yeah. Executive compensation at that level is always going to be a point of intense debate, especially when, a company's undergoing, significant workforce reductions. And I think, those figures often do raise, really important questions about fairness, about, the alignment of leadership rewards with the experiences of the broader employee base.
Right. Right. And then more recently, in April 2024, after the company fired 28 employees who were protesting Project Nimbus, he issued a statement saying that the office is, not the place for disruptive issues or debate politics. And he warned against using the company as a personal platform, which again kind of sparked a lot of discussions about, kind of the boundaries of workplace activism and employee expression. It's a tricky issue, right?
It is, and I think that statement really reflects that ongoing challenge that leaders face, right? Of how do you navigate this intersection of employee activism and maintaining a productive and focused work environment, and it touches on some really, really complex questions, I think. What is the role of companies in broader social and political discourse, and to what extent can employees express their views within the workplace?
Yeah, tough questions. Okay, so in terms of recognition, he's been included in Time's 100 Most Influential People list in 2016, 2020, made the Time 100 AI list in 2024. I mean, so, those are, pretty significant accolades, and, they span, like kind of a pretty significant period of, technological evolution.
Right. Right. And I think those repeated inclusions on Time's list, really, really underscore his sustained influence on the global stage, and also his adaptability to these new technological frontiers, right? I mean, more recently, the field of AI is evolving so rapidly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it signifies, I think, a recognition of his impact on both society and technology, over a considerable period of time.
Yeah. Okay. And then in 2022, he was awarded the Padma Bhushan by the government of India for his contributions to trade and industry, and that's the third highest civilian award in India. So, a pretty significant honor, that really acknowledges, his global impact, and also, kind of his ties to his home country.
Yeah, absolutely. The Padma Bhushan is a really prestigious honor. It recognizes, people for distinguished service of a high order.
Yeah.
And I think this award really does acknowledge his significant contributions to the business world, and really his role as, a prominent figure of Indian origin, leading this global technology giant.
Okay. Well, as we wrap this up, I mean, it's clear that Sundar Pichai's journey is a pretty compelling, I think, story of leadership in the 21st century. From his his solid engineering background to really kind of navigating the complexities of leading a global powerhouse like Alphabet. I mean, he's really kind of faced this constant stream of technological change and societal pressures.
Right. I mean, I think his trajectory really highlights the critical importance of having a blend of technical expertise, strategic thinking, and just that ability to adapt and to make some really difficult decisions in a world that's changing so rapidly. I mean, he has steered one of the most influential companies in the world through periods of immense innovation, and also periods of some really, really significant scrutiny.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's something I think to think about. Given that his initial background is in metallurgical engineering, a field that's really focused on the properties and the production of materials. How might that fundamental understanding of structure and process and iteration have kind of influenced his approach to this much more abstract world of software and internet services, and or thinking about kind of the more recent headlines about diversity and employee expression. What do you think are some of the biggest long-term challenges for tech leaders as they try to balance the drive for innovation with the need to foster inclusive and socially responsible organizations?
Those are great questions. I mean, it's fascinating to think about maybe that engineering background instilled in him a very, very analytical process-oriented mindset, even when dealing with things that seem, so intangible, right?
Yeah.
Like digital products. And yeah, I mean, these ongoing debates about workplace culture and social responsibility, they're defining issues, I think, for leadership, in the tech landscape, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a look at, the key milestones and considerations in the career of Sundar Pichai. We encourage everyone to, go check out the source material, explore a little bit further, keep thinking about the broader implications of his leadership and how it's shaping the technology that is increasingly shaping all of our lives. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks everyone.